All right, you're watching the Beach Brothers Show. You're watching the Beach Brothers Show. I'm Seko Varner. I'm here with my good friend Conrad. How are you doing, Conrad?
I am doing excellent. Excellent, I say.
Beautiful, beautiful. The Beach Brothers Show is a non-partisan political talk show, and it stars Conrad, who's running for Virginia Beach City Council. If you're interested in appearing on the show, then talk to Conrad. It also features Jose Cruz. So if you're a business and you'd like to have your business highlighted in our show, speak to Jose. I'm Seko Varner. You're a serial entrepreneur and your producer for the show. All right. And we're also being highlighted and sponsored by Tally and Twine Watches. If you love high quality watches and you want to celebrate Virginia, then definitely check into Tally and Twine. So who do we have today, good brother? I know you're running for city council and you are on the move, but tonight we have somebody special we're going to talk to, right?
Very, very special. Mr. Bill Curtis. We did try to have him on last night. Things did not work out to the best of their ability, but fear not, we are relentless in our pursuits. And Mr. Bill Curtis will be on tonight. And remember, my being a member of the VB Democrats won't stop us from being even-handed on this show. And we just had Jimmy Frost on, so we need to make sure that we have Bill Curtis on to be the other side. And also, don't forget that we had on a Richmond City Council candidate just this week, Amy Wentz. So Mr. Bill Curtis is on tonight. He graduated from Savannah State, holds a master's from the Navy War College. He's a former Navy Senior Supplies Corps captain and has been chairman of the board of STOP, a group helping the impoverished. He's been on the Hampton Roads Black Caucus's board, the Republican Professional Network, and is the VP of the Virginia Beach Republican Party currently. He's also a state central committee director for the Virginia Republican Party. He currently is the owner of, and I am not going to pronounce this very well, Ludum Management Consultants, and he works as a financial resource manager for Naval Facilities Engineering Command in Norfolk. Mr. Bill, his wife Audrey, and his two children live in Virginia Beach and attend Atlantic Shores Baptist. And we're going to jump right into this tonight. Mr. Curtis, you're currently you're currently the vice chairman of the party. So why step up for the top job?
Well, I enjoyed being the vice chair for 4 years. I met a great number of people. I understand better how the organization works, its relationship with all of the various Republican groups across the city. And I also understand how we interface with our electeds now better than I did before. And of course, how we interface with the State Central Committee in Richmond. So I feel that I have the experience base now to affect some changes, do some different things. I'm very pleased with what we've done, where we've come from. But clearly, the future holds some additional challenges, and our environment is changing. So I'd like to help craft a path and have a vision so that we can make the Republican Party more viable and a refuge of choice for citizens across the city. So those are the reasons. I just think that we have a great deal of potential and there's a great deal to be done. And there's some things going on in our community right now that I think Republican principles and values can help solve, can help point us in the right direction.
Interesting. I want to note that I have on my purple and gold. You're a gentleman that wears black and gold, so we do have a gold connection. I have our names written in gold, and it's a really golden moment to have you on here, Bill. Really golden moment.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be
Good
here.
Stuff. All right, so even tonight, you can tell that Conrad is vocal on guns. We talked about that a little bit earlier. He spoke at various local city councils on it. On your website for VB Republican Chairman, you list that you're fully supportive of the Second Amendment. I'm glad to hear because I have two of my own. So what does such support of the Second Amendment entail for a chairman of the local party? And what role does RPVB have on issues in general? Two questions.
Okay, well, first of all, Second Amendment, I mean, that's just a basic right for each American. It's a guaranteed constitutional right. And we feel very strongly about that. We understand why the Constitution was written the way it was and why that right was placed in it. We feel it is in jeopardy. And we feel that, yeah, we have to use common sense when you're talking about the right to own guns. But any restrictions on that right need to be completely debated in public and voted in public as well. It should not be anything behind the scenes or in closed doors or in smoke-filled rooms. These ought to be out for everyone to have an opportunity to discuss and see. But in terms of the right to own guns, any weapons, I absolutely support that. And the Republican Party of Virginia Beach supports that. That means if there are rallies, we'll have members out there supporting those rallies. And many of our elected, all of our elected support it as well. So they're going to be out there at those rallies as well. So this is an issue that the Republican Party of Virginia Beach feels very strongly about. I feel very strongly about, and we're going to support it. We're going to support it as vigorously and aggressively as we possibly can. Now, regarding other issues, clearly, there are many, many issues out there, and we cannot plant a flag on every hill to fight a battle. We have to choose carefully which ones that we're going to get engaged with. Clearly, the Second Amendment, the right to free speech, the right to life, those are things that you're going to always see us engaged in. We're going to be vocal, we're going to be supportive, and we're going to entertain those at our meetings, and we're going to support all the rallies associated with those. And there are others on the local level that our members may be concerned with, such on the school board and the city council, that impact each of us in the community. And again, we cannot address every issue, but there are clearly some that are going to stand out. You know, we had one several years ago on light rail, and you know, those are the kinds of issues that we have to step up and take a position on. So, as
what was your position on light rail?
Excuse me.
What was the position on light rail?
For Republican Party of Virginia Beach, we were opposed to it.
Sure, for the party. In general, I know you're not speaking for each and every member, but in general, what was the position on light rail?
You mean my position?
Let's go with your position. Okay.
Okay. My position was I am a strong supporter of mass transportation. I think that in the future, mass transportation is going to be critical to any city of size when you consider environmental issues and other things and population growth. I think anything that will reduce the number of vehicles on the roads would be something we should consider. However, any kind of light rail is not what we're talking about. And I was opposed to the light rail programs that we discussed several years ago because I don't think it addressed the issues that it was supposed to, and that is, overcrowding on the roads. Because of the way it was designed, it was not going to address that at all. And I didn't see where it was going to be very beneficial to the citizens of Virginia Beach, so I was opposed to it. But in general, I support mass transportation, and I'd be willing to reconsider it in the future if it did address specifically the overcrowding and we looked at the routes of it and it just made sense. You have to apply common sense to these things. But just to say we want light rail for the sake of having light rail, no, I will never support that.
Mm-hmm. For what it's worth, I will mention I'm particularly strong fan of rapid bus transit. I think becoming a hub around all of Hampton roads, not just Virginia Beach, where an expanded bus and more importantly, efficient bus system would have some great dividends for the community, but that's my opinion. My next question, Seko is a past candidate for school board, and he can sit very well in a room with the Republican Party of Virginia Beach and the Democrat Party of Virginia Beach. His independence is noted. The Beach brothers note that you're offering, with your candidacy for VB Republican chairman, opposition research into local opponents. So tell us a little bit about that.
About opposition research into local opponents?
Offering that, I guess, more as a system for your chairmanship and what you might offer.
Well, first of all, the school board is absolutely critical. I think that we need to have good conservatives on that school board, just as Democrats feel they need to have good liberals on that school board. And I think a balance is what we're looking for. But in terms of conservative principles and values, there are some things that we believe in that we're going to fight for, and we will support Republican school board members to do just that. And we're going to be verbal, and we're going to be assertive in that as well. We believe in school choice and charter schools, and we believe that there should be limited government involvement in the education system, and that the school board itself should be able to address, with the help, actually the superintendent, with the help of the school board, should be able to address all the issues that are affecting our schools in Virginia Beach. There are any number of issues, and you may know them better than I do, but I'm aware of some of them that are intractable issues that must be addressed in the near term. And the school board members who are Republicans have come to our city committee meetings. They bring these issues to us, and we provide the support to the best of our ability to help them. Of course, they are currently outnumbered on the school board, and that is something we're going to try and address and make sure that we affect more balance on the board. We don't think there's balance there right now. So the school board, we think, is an issue that resonates with all citizens in Virginia Beach, and it's one that I think that Republican core principles and values, how we view education for our children, is something that is going to cross political boundaries. I think that is a common sense approach, and we want to make sure that the parents have as much say in what's being determined as possible, and not just leave that in the boardroom for the school board.
Interesting. I know that Vicki Manning is really pushing for some parental choice for the upcoming school year, with the possibility of having staggered things. Would you say that that's pretty much a very shared value with the Republican Party?
The Republican Party, these are difficult times, Seko, you know that, with COVID and all. We'd prefer to have our kids in school every day of the week. We'd prefer to go back to our normal approach, because if you look at the stats associated with this virus, I think that we can be a little more aggressive in getting back to some degree of normalcy with our schools. And I think that she supports that as well. Now, if there's a decision is to have staggered education for the kids, then we want to make sure that we have as much classroom time as possible. If there's a lack of control over that, because we're being told how this is going to be handled by, higher authorities, then we have to manage it and work within those constraints. But we understand that there are also some before school and after school issues that must be addressed. We don't want the kids out there by themselves. And of course, unfortunately, we know that there's some issues with meals with kids who are not in school.
Right.
So,
Right.
That's why I said we want to have a balanced approach to it. And the Republican members of the school board fully understand that and fully support trying to come up with something that works best. It strikes a great balance for the kids as well as the parents in these challenging times.
Okay.
All right. Well, there was a particularly strong downpour of the ocean front this week, and it lasted a while. Frequent lightning, driving and stuff like that doesn't really bother me, especially with the Jetta I was able to get at Chesapeake Southern Volkswagen. Remember, Southern Volkswagen is at 1248 South Military Highway. They sell both used and new cars there, so head on over, speak to Charlie Roy and Cynthia Rawlings. Mention you heard about that place on the Beach Brothers, and they'll hook you up with a qualified car. And on the concept of qualifications, we know their importance. Mr. Curtis, when you look at this position, what do you think determines your qualifications for it?
Okay. Well, if you look at my background, you'll see that I am indeed a retired Navy captain. I've held command. I've held very senior positions. I've had charge of large numbers of people and very complicated organizations. I've had to do budgets and millions, hundreds of millions. And when I was on the Think-Lant Fleet, the Commander Atlantic Forces staff, I was responsible for helping prepare budgets in the billions. So I have a great deal of experience in organization and personnel management, as well as strategic planning and execution, follow-up. I understand relationships. 27 years in the service. I've been all over the world. I've met all kinds of people. I've had all kinds of challenges. And I was blessed. I did exceedingly well. Also, after I retired, I was with a major defense contractor. I was a program manager, and I had programs across the country that I was responsible for. Again, millions of dollars of federal funds affected. And now, of course, I work for the Department of Navy again as a resource manager. But across all of those, I had a tremendous opportunities to interface with people, to manage, and to recognize that you individually are not going to be the determinant of success. You have to work with people. And if you learn how to develop relationships and understand and assess the capabilities of those around you, you can leverage those things. And you will not be the person carrying the full burden. You can't. That is not your job as a leader. That is not your job as a chairman. Your job is to work with others, to champion them, and to leverage their skill sets, and to reach out and determine other ideas, because it's all about that mix of different ideas from different people that help craft the way ahead, the plans, the strategic plan for how we ought to run the party and how we ought to execute that and how we ought to make decisions that will improve our party across the city. So I think that with my education, my experience, and of course my current engagement with different organizations. You mentioned Alpha Phi Alpha. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and have been for many years, and I've had senior positions there. That's organizational challenge as well, as you well know, Seko. You're in a fraternity, and you talk about strong-willed, well-educated, successful people all having the best ideas.
Omegas are strong-willed, successful people.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you understand how challenging that is. I did that. I've done that, and of course, I'm chairman of the board of directors of Stop Incorporated, which has been around for over 50 years. We have 24 board members representing 3 from each of the 8 local jurisdictions, and each jurisdiction has its own individual issues and things that have to be resolved. And Stop is just a tremendous organization that has reaches everywhere. So
Regina's doing a great job with
that CEO on that. And then, of course, Hampton Roads Black Caucus. We're nonpartisan. We are, although people don't believe that, and some don't, some do, but we are. And just as many Republicans as Democrats are there. And it's important for us to maintain that nonpartisan, that independent status. So that takes some challenge also. And then, of course, I'm active in the Republican Party of Virginia Beach, the State Central Committee, and the Republican Professionals Network. So all those things combined give me just a wealth of experience, but primarily it's relationships. And I'll go back to what I said at the outset of this conversation. It's all about relationships, being able to meet with people, sit down, have a conversation, understand where they're coming from, make them understand your position, and then determining how you can negotiate, how you can work out together so that you can craft a response or a solution that is acceptable to everyone. And that means that no one gets 100% of what they want, but the negotiation means in most cases that the final solution is going to be acceptable to all because everyone has gotten some of what they're looking for.
Well, following up on the characteristics of your qualifications, I would like to also lead towards certain traits of what makes a good leader. I assume they must have great character and integrity. Can you expand on the importance of those traits?
Yeah, a leader's job is to enable one or more people, groups of people, large organizations to accomplish common goals. That leader is supposed to make sure that his job is to see that the people that he represents are equipped to be able to do the job that they've been tasked with doing, to make sure they have the tools, the resources, the training. That is what a leader does. And that's what the leader of the Republican Party of Virginia Beach has to do as well. Have to make sure that the people who have volunteered their time, because you don't have to be a volunteer at the Republican Party, Democrat Party, or any party. You're there because you want to be, because you feel strongly about it, because you are aligned with the principle and values of your organization. So Republicans who have come together to work with us, they need to have someone who's going to be there to help them, to prepare that focus, to keep them going in the right direction. And so, it's all about the relationship. It's all about leveraging their skills, and it's all about making them understand that they are each individually critical in the success of our organization. That is what leadership is all about. Now, let's talk about character. We all want to make sure that we have trust in our leaders. And, David Gergen is an advisor to presidents, both Democrat and Republican. He's been around a long time. I haven't heard from him recently, but I've read some of the things that he has said as he advised presidents. He said something that I think is critical, and I say a great deal. So you'll hear me say it again if you're ever around me. And that is that he's talking about integrity. He says, if your leaders have integrity, nothing else matters. But then he adds, if your leaders don't have integrity, nothing else matters. It's all about integrity and character and trust. If your leader is not able to be trusted, if you don't have confidence in him, then he is really not your leader. He's not going to be effective because you're not going to allow him to do so.
Interesting.
Deep.
Interesting. All right. So 2020 is shaping up to be one of, if not the most significant elections in the state's history, from presidency on down to the school board elections. And turnout, we expect, will be pretty high. So the Beach Brothers have to ask a prospective chairman of the Republican Party, what is your position on the partisan nature of politics? Is it too partisan? Is it not partisan enough? What's your position on the nature of politics currently?
Well, you're going to always have a partisan environment. Nothing wrong with a partisan environment because you have people who have different ideas, different opinions, and different thoughts on how we ought to move the country forward or the local community forward. So there is nothing wrong or negative about partisan politics. Now, if you make it a toxic environment, there's everything wrong with that, because if that is indeed the case, then you have missed an opportunity to have a tremendous positive impact on your local community. So there's nothing wrong with partisan politics. We have to keep it in balance. And when I say in balance, I mean both parties have to understand there's civility and there's professionalism and there's honor. And yes, we have to be concerned with character and trust in both parties. But to have a good spirited debate and to outline your arguments for why or why not you think we ought to approach something differently, that is exactly what it's all about. And the citizens rely upon that. They rely upon that debate to make a decision about who they think should be their leader, who they think has the best ideas. And that is really what every election is about. Now, this current environment is unfortunately very toxic because
you
have an entirely partisan focus where people are just voting straight party line because they are a part of a particular party or ideology. Then I think that you miss out a great deal. Now, I'm a Republican and I vote Republican, okay? And that's the way it is. And Democrats are Democrats and they vote Democrat. That's just the way it is. That's how, and that's not going to change. But
I think it can change.
Excuse me?
I think it can change. I think it needs to change.
Well, how would it change? I mean, I don't disagree with you, Seko. I agree with you if we could find some way. But if you go back to the founding of the nation, it's always been a significant political divide, always. And in fact, if you study early political campaigns, what we do today is just child's play. There were no rules. They were vicious. And just study some of it. You'll be surprised at what you discover. People think today that is awful. This is not awful compared to that. Now, should we do better? Absolutely. The toxicity, the accusations, and the personal attacks, there is no place for that. No place at all. If a person has lied to the community and he wants to run for office, then I think that the opposition has every right to bring that before the community. But to take gratuitous pot shots at people just to undermine them or to try to destroy them without factual basis is absolutely unacceptable. That increases the toxicity of our environment. So no, there's nothing wrong with a partisan environment at all, as so long as everyone, all the players, understand that there are limits. And yes, we ought to be focused on professionalism and civility.
Okay. We want to take a viewer question, and the viewer asks, what would your first internal change be with this post, and what point would you defend from change?
Okay.
Interesting question.
And unfortunately, we were supposed to have this vote for chairman on the 13th of April. Unfortunately, it's been pushed back. Now it's the 13th of July. we have roughly 3.5, 4 months before the general election. So there's some things we have to do. The first thing I'm going to do is stand up an ad hoc committee that is going to be focused on looking at partisan elections. And that is going to help us determine how we can do it. We will make a change. I want to have this ad hoc committee do complete research into our options and take a look at the pros and cons. And at the first the first committee meeting in August, come and give a detailed presentation so that we as a committee can vote on the approach we want to take so that we can put it in place immediately and support Republicans with that sample ballot and all that you talked about. So that's the first thing I'm going to do and make sure that we have representation from all of the women's clubs, Young Republicans, Tea Party, and the elected so that everyone understands and has a part of this. Everyone's a stakeholder in it, and they should all have a part in determining or crafting an approach to addressing this really pressing problem. So yes, that is the first thing I'm going to do. Now, I didn't see the second part of that question there. It was
well, the second part was, what would you defend from change? So what things are you going to keep the same, if I understand the question correctly?
Oh, well, I think that the thing I'm going to keep the same is the primary focus of the Republican Party of Virginia Beach or any city party unit is precinct organization. Our job is to identify and support and get Second Amendment conservative Republicans elected to office. That means we have to have a great internal organization. We have to have precinct captains and poll watchers, and we have to train them. We have to make sure we sustain this year round. That is the most important thing that I can do as a chairman at this point. Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. The second thing, the most important thing, I think, is going to be party unity, making sure that everyone knows that we have common stakeholders. We have more in common than we are different. But that will lead directly into building the precinct organization, which is the foundation, which is the heart of the unit. That is what we were supposed to be doing, getting conservatives elected into public office.
Well, the next question should be pretty interesting, as I am representing the Virginia Beach Democrat Party while running for Virginia Beach City Council because there's things I would like to do on council. But as chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia Beach, do you wish to have a good relationship with the opposition, and how should the party interface with the Democrats?
We have to be able to reach across the aisle and talk. I mean, I respect the fact that you are a Democrat and you may disagree in some things that in my opinions, but I'll bet that if we sat down and had a conversation and talked about things that are important to us, at least 50% of those items would be something that we share in common. So once we get past that, then we can discuss the things that we don't agree on and try to come to a compromise and understand. I talked about negotiation. That's what it's all about. That's what negotiation does for you. And if you have a toxic environment where no one allows you to negotiate because they have a zero-sum mentality, which means that if they can't get 100% of what they want, then they're not going to play, then you will never accomplish anything. So yes, we have to be able to have a good relationship with our partners across the aisle, but I am not going to compromise my conservative principles and values, because I think that we can come to an agreement that will be acceptable to both without having to compromise those principles and values. Those are the things that are foundational to the Republican Party, and that is why I'm a Republican. But I think that we can still have conversations. We should be able to discuss things. I mean, just think about it. Think about the flooding problems in Virginia Beach. Those impact everyone. I don't care if you are Republican, Democrat, purple, or blue. It doesn't matter. That means that we should be able to come to an agreement as to how to address that. That's something as simple, it's local, but it's important to all of our constituencies.
I'm glad you mentioned purple. I am purple. Shout out to the Omegas. But I'm also an independent. So I'm between red and blue. Do you even think it's interesting? Well, do you think it's valuable to reach out to Virginia Beach residents who are independent voters like I am?
Well, I think it's critical because, and again, I am not going to compromise, and I will not have our unit compromise our conservative principles and values. But I am telling you that most people in America are certainly slightly right of center. And when I say conservative, I'm not talking about a political or definition of the word. I'm talking about conservative in what they believe in. And when I use liberal in this case, I'm not talking about a liberal Democrat. I'm talking about just liberal in their perspectives. That's all. I think that most people are just common sense. They want the same things. And I got to tell you, Seko, that once you address that and that's why people are independents, because they don't feel comfortable in either party. They just take exception to what's going on. Some are just utterly disgusted by what's going on, and I understand that.
I
understand it. Okay,
I am thoroughly. I look at both parties and I see hypocrites, and
Yeah.
I see a lot of stalling on things that could really impact the lives of Americans and Virginians. And I started off as a Democrat, and then I started listening to Rush Limbaugh. You've heard my story, and I became a Republican for a while. And then when I took a really hard look at the Republicans, I was like, these cats are crazy. And
Yeah.
so I looked at the Democrats. These cats are crazy. And so I have, unfortunately, I'm kind of in the middle because I've taken a hard look at some of the hypocrisy that I see in both parties. And I've also taken a hard look at the stalling and the lack of progress that America and Virginians have made because of the partisan nature. So it's interesting that you're very, optimistic about the partisan nature, and you think that it can be very helpful. And hopefully I can get to that point and see what you see. I don't see it right now.
Well, your position is like you're in the catbird seat, right? Because you're looking at both, and you know that there are things that are important to you, and
Right.
in your mind, you know how you'd like to see them resolved. So you're going to look at both parties, and you're going to say, now, which one is closer to what I think the approach that I think we ought to take? And so you can sit there and you can determine that, and then you make your decision. So as a Republican, I want to make sure I have a conversation with you. I'd like to persuade you, but if I can't persuade you, I'd at least like you to understand what my position is, what our party's position is, and why. And that doesn't mean that we don't necessarily agree with you in some instances, but what it means is that we think that our common sense approach to the issue, whatever it may be, is something that we believe that if we articulate it to you, you would come to understand why we're doing this and why it is better for you, and then we might be able to persuade you to agree with us. So yes, independents, I think we ought to be reaching out to them. And increasingly, independents, are having a great deal of power in determining
Of
who is
sway.
us.
Yeah. Okay. Your opponent for chairman, Mr. Jimmy Frost, noted his disapproval about the declining numbers of member participation, and elected representatives. As chairman, you'll take on the lead on party growth. What are your thoughts on Republican Party growth in Virginia Beach?
Well, first of all, I think we have a great party. We do. There are many, many Republicans in Virginia Beach, and they support the Republican candidates. They may not be active in the party for whatever reason, but we have a great party. We've had tremendous successes here in Virginia Beach. Probably the most successes across the state in terms of Republican units. So you'll never hear me criticize our party, because I think we made up with some very, very fine people, some hardworking people, and we support Republican principles and values, and we put our votes where our principles and values are. So we stand out across the state, and we've done some great things here. We have the Republican breakfast, which you've attended, and we're the only unit in the nation that has a weekly Republican breakfast. And before the COVID shut us down, we were running 60 to 70 every Saturday. And those people enjoyed coming out and talking, and didn't always agree, but that's okay. At least it gave me an opportunity to know what they're thinking. And they had a forum where they could express themselves. I think that's great. And of course, we still have a Republican headquarters that is open 7 days a week. And we're able to fund that and maintain it. It's a place for us to gather. And that's something that many units cannot say. And we're able to maintain that. Okay. And of course, with we did not win one seat, but lost that one seat by 40 votes, and it should have been much more if you look at the numbers and the demographics there. So I'm just as pleased as I can with the accomplishments. Now, there's always improvements, and we need to make improvements. We need to reclaim those seats that we've lost. We need to make sure that we reclaim that congressional seat, and we need to make sure that we come together and support President Trump. Those are the things that we need to do, and that's my focus. So I will not say anything negative about our party, because I think it's great here in Virginia Beach, and I think that we have to make sure that we open a dialogue so that members feel comfortable coming out and discussing issues and knowing that they're going to have a forum where they can express themselves and it will be entertained, that we will have that discussion and that we'll be able to address them. But it's the party, it's the committee itself that makes those decisions. And as your chairman, I'm going to make sure that we have an open environment there where people can come and express themselves, and we can discuss what is important to everyone, and then determine what course of action we want to take. Or keep in mind what I said earlier, we can't address everything. So it's going to be up to the city committee and the Republican Party membership to determine which items have the priority for us to focus on. I can't make that decision. I'm only the chairman, and I shouldn't make that decision. Now, I have my own opinions, but whatever that the committee determines, I'm going to champion it for them, because that is why they're hiring me. That is why they're electing me to put me in that job.
Now, the following question will be a bit lengthy, and it's on business. As you know, the Beach Brothers prides itself as a show of both Virginia politics and Virginia business. Virginia Beach Republican Party, do you think it has a good relationship with leaders in Virginia Beach business? If so, should it grow? And if you could shout out some Virginia Beach businesses that already have a good relationship with you and the party.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to cite any businesses, no, because when you cite one, you're sliding another. So I'm not going to do that. But I will say this, that we have great relationships with businesses across the community here in Virginia Beach, and we're going to continue to expand that. But, businesses support you because you support the things that are important to them. And once we articulate that, then I think that you're going to see just tremendous support coming from the business community, even greater than it already is. But we have to have a conversation with them. We have to talk with them. We have to know what their concerns are. I understand taxes and different rules, regulations, reducing those, and any host of issues on the local level that our business people are concerned about. They bring them to our attention, and we work those with them. We understand them, and then we find candidates who support addressing those. And then we nominate them, and we make sure that we are in a position through our precinct organization, our internal structure, that we make sure we get them elected so they can address those issues that the business community is focused and concerned about. So yes, I think once again, in closing on that, we have a tremendous relationship right now with the business community. Many business members are part of the Republican Party, and those that aren't support us. But I think that the sky is the limit for our party in regards to the business community, because we have common sense approaches to problems that beset them every day, and we want to resolve them.
Well, as we zero in on closing out this special guest appearance by Mr. Bill Curtis, and again, thank you for coming on tonight and for giving us another shot. The last question for tonight from the Beach Brothers would be, why? Why should folks go to 411 Integrity Way in Virginia Beach on July 13th and vote for Bill Curtis to be chairman of the Virginia Beach Republican Party?
Well, first of all, if you're a Republican and you share common conservative principles and values, you ought to have a concern about what is going on in our party, what is going on in our community, and then you ought to think, well, if that is indeed the case, then I want to be a part. I want to be active, engaged, because if I'm not active, if I'm not engaged, then I'm not going to have anything to say about the results. So if I want to have an impact on the results, I need to be active and engaged. So that and that alone means you should come out and vote. Now, for me in particular, I've already articulated my background, my experience. I've also talked with you about my 4 years as the vice chair, and my experience now at the State Central Committee and with other organizations here. I understand the community. I have great relationships with many organizations in the community. I have a great relationship with the electeds, and I understand some of their concerns. I also have great relationships with many of the Republicans. Don't always agree with them, but I can get along with anyone, and I am not afraid to articulate my opinions, my principles, my values, and I'll listen to them and honor them and respect them when they share theirs with me. So you have to have an open door. You have to be accessible. You have to have the experience base, and you have to have the focus. And I have all of those. And I also have a vision for the party. I have a vision where we are going to reach out and into the community at large so that our party looks like the community. Yeah, we talk about an open tent or a big tent, and we are, but we have to make sure those flaps open so people can come in. And that's what I intend to do. I want to make sure that I engage in conversation with all aspects of the minority communities, whether it's, the Black community, Asian community, Latino community, the gay community. We need to have relationships with all of them because they have common concerns and common problems. And I'm absolutely convinced that conservative principles and values will answer the majority of their concerns. They just have to give us a chance. So we have to make sure that they're invited and they are welcome to come into our tent and sit and have a conversation with us and discuss these. And they can determine for themselves whether or not they feel that we're going to answer or be a part of the solution to those challenges. I think we will. And I think that I can sit down eye to eye with them and just make them feel comfortable that even if we can't solve everything that they're saying, we'll certainly make a tremendous, sincere effort to do so and invite them to come in and help us. We can't do it. If they have concerns in their specific communities, they need to come and articulate to them and help us craft a solution. I think we can find that. I think we can do it. It's all about relationships, gentlemen. That's what I was talking about. And that is what I do. I build relationships. I can have a conversation with anyone. I can work with anyone. And I think that together we're stronger than individuals. And so, yeah, part of that is just mending any issues. With any party, you're going to have splinter groups who disagree with the primary group. I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, doesn't matter. You can always have that. I still think that reaching out and letting them know that we have more in common than we are different is the first step. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm equipped to do that. I am experienced. I have the relationship development skill sets. And I think that we just have a tremendous opportunity to turn Virginia Beach around, to work with the community, to make them know that we are relevant, we understand, and we're going to work with them. So those are the things that come to mind when you ask that question. And I just want to have an opportunity. So I invite anyone who is a Republican to come out and vote. And I certainly hope that you vote for me because you feel that you can have confidence in me. And let me assure you something. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Integrity is nothing more important. As I told you with that quote from David Gergen, there's nothing more important to me. Character and integrity. And if you can't trust your leaders, then, what can you trust? You have to be able to trust the people you put in a position to represent you. And you have to have access to them. So I encourage everyone to come out and vote. And I ask that you vote for me. Help me to make this Republican Party, Virginia Beach, better than it is. I can't do it by myself. It's not about me. It's about we. We'll work together to do that. And I thank you, gentlemen, for having me on your show. And I think you're doing a great public service here.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good show, man. Good show. I enjoy talking with Bill. I've always enjoyed. I remember when I first began visiting the Republican breakfast, Bill walked up to me and extended his hand and said, "Hey, let's sit down. Let's have some coffee. Let's chat." This was before the breakfast begun, and he and Mike and Tina as well. And so I was really impressed with the way that administration, the leaders of the organization, were so inviting. And that's one of the reasons I've kept coming to the Virginia Beach Republican breakfasts.
And we'll get another chance tomorrow.
True that. True that.
A very special guest coming out tomorrow as well. I have a lot of important state representatives from here in Virginia Beach. Delegate Glenn Davis will be there tomorrow. Delegate Jason Miyares will be there tomorrow.
Right.
State Jen Higgins, and Bill DeSteff. All will be there tomorrow. So hop on by just to catch up with politics.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, you've been watching the Beach Brothers Show. I'm Seko Varner. I'm the producer of the show. Conrad, if you're interested in, being a part of the show, Conrad, who's running for Virginia Beach City Council, he's the person that you'll contact if you're interested in appearing on the show. If you're a business and you want to be highlighted, the same way we highlighted Tally and Twine and the Volkswagen dealership, get in contact with Jose. We'll make sure that your business gets the highlight it deserves. I'm the producer of the show, and really thank you for listening. We want to thank again Tally and Twine for their great work, their great handicraft, the high quality watches that are produced here in the Hampton Roads area. And also, if you'd like to get your credit repair, get in contact with me. Just look at the link below the video and we can make sure that happens for you. And we've been hanging out with Brother Bill. So last words, Bill.
Hey, listen, again, thanks for having me on. And I just encourage everyone to come on out. Everyone, one of your most significant responsibilities as a citizen is to vote. If you don't vote, then you really forfeit your right to complain or criticize about anything that's going on in your community. Come out and vote for your leaders, because by voting for your leaders, you're expressing yourself. You're saying, this is what I believe. And if the leaders you vote for don't do the things that you think they should be, then you don't vote for them the next time. But at least you have a reason for not voting for them. Come out, express yourself. And I certainly look forward to seeing you on the 13th of July at the Law Enforcement Training Academy there. And once again, I just ask that you give me an opportunity to lead this party, to work with you, to empower you so that I can leverage your skills, your enthusiasm, and your passion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. You've been checking out the Beach Brothers Show with our special guest today. Our special guest today has been Brother Bill Curtis. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Have a great one.
All right.